Good evening, all. We are now at the end of hockey for today, and of course, my notes sparse on some games because I wasn't home, so that's forgivable. That being said, it is unforgivable right now if we do not acknowledge that Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are making an argument right now that they should both win the Hart. And we'll go ahead and we'll jump to that at the end of this video. And I'm sorry, but that's why we have the timestamps below. Let's go ahead and start things off with Florida and the Rangers, the game that I saw the first period of before we left. And it didn't end up where I thought it was going to go at all. First period, Lindgren scores from Strome and Panarin at 5:06. That's his first goal. And you're like, all right, Rangers are up. The Panthers then got a power play. Lundqvist with the stop on Hoffman. Hoffman had a decent game. He can't buy one right now. And I put up, like, is Kenny Henrik stealing another one? Because Florida was in control of the game, and yet Lundqvist was keeping everything out. And then, no. Barkov scores from Dadonov at 18-13, so Barkov now has a 5-game goal streak. I said he had a goal streak coming, and he's had one. And then Tony Nato scores from Hunt and Weegar at 18-43. And spotty defense by the Rangers. I noticed that. I'm like, this is not great defense. So while at the end of it, you look at Lundqvist's numbers and say that wasn't a great game, I look at the defense in front of him. Got to work on that. And it was a solid road period for the Panthers. They come out with a 2-1 lead. They score twice in 30 seconds. Pretty good period. Second period, everything straight downhill from here. Hedl from Buchnevich and Kreider at 1:28. So a minute and a half in, they score. Dadonov then scored from Barkov and Huberdeau at 4:42. That's a power play goal. Brady Shea then scores at 5:31. Capo Caco on the power play from Strome and DeAngelo. So again, Capo Caco is improving. He's starting to put up the goals. He's starting to get the points. And so the fight between he and Hughes continues. Jack Hughes didn't get on the board today, but had a good game. Vetrano then scored from Dadonov at 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So good game for him. However, Kreider would score from Fox and Panarin. Again, power play goal, 18:35. So they have a lead. They have a 5-4 lead after 2. In the third period, it gets tied by Brian Boyle from Yandel and Hoffman. So Hoffman gets a helper out of this one. And that's your end until overtime. In overtime, nothing is solved. So we go to a shootout, and Vinny Trocheck gets the winner. Florida wins 6-5. And this is where the tough part comes up for me. Florida wins some games like this, right? Florida has a record above 500, and overall their points are good. They're not winning games in a convincing manner. They're not winning games in a way that makes me say, yep, these guys are on a roll, and that's where it gets kind of tricky for me. It's good to see them getting these wins. I want to see them get better. 3 stars in this game were Dadonov, Barkov, and Kreider. Dadonov had 5 hits to lead the way there. Hoffman had 5 shots. And I went with somebody on the plus-minus side of things who had a negative day. So it was only guys who had negative days. As long as I could find somebody who had a negative day. Matheson was a -3 for Florida today. On the New York side, Shea, 5 hits. Trouba, 5 shots. And Brendan Lemieux was a -2 today. Montembeault, 29 saves on 34 shots. Lundqvist, 30 saves on 35 shots. He didn't quite steal one today. It turns out that wasn't really going to end up happening. But anyways, moving along. Dallas goes in against Winnipeg today, and Winnipeg comes through and they manage themselves a victory. From a Dallas perspective, I can look and go, well, we got a point. But at the same time, this is a game where they're held to 2 goals. And I do wonder if the offense that they showed over the last week, if they're going to be able to maintain that. Today's game does make me somewhat nervous. Laine would score in the last minute of the first period on the power play from Pionk and Wheeler, 19 minutes and 33 seconds. So finally, one of Laine's shots doesn't injure people. It actually ends up in the back of the net. Second period, Dallas fights back. First, it's Janmark from Dickinson at 5:22. Then it's Foxa from Lindell and Gurianov at 10:27. So Gurianov continues the good run that he's been on. And it's 2-1 after 2. But in the third, early in the third, Andrew Kopp from Pullman and Lowry at 1 minute and 52 seconds. That ties it up. And then in overtime, Scheifele from Morrissey pretty much right away, like they had somewhere to go, so they wanted to get it done, wrap it up. 21 seconds. Yeah. 3 stars were Kopp, Foxa, and Scheifele. Blake Como had 2 hits in the game. Heiskanen had 5 shots. Dowling was a -1. Sagan was a -1 as well. I didn't put him up there. I felt like kind of picking on him, so I put Dowling up there. I'm not even going to mention Sagan was a -1. Wheeler, 5 hits. Kopp with 8 shots. And Pionk was a -1 on the Winnipeg side of things. Hudobin, 26 saves on 29 shots. Hellebuck, 26 saves on 28 shots. So, Dallas loses the game. Winnipeg gets another victory in overtime. Winnipeg is in a similar situation to Florida where some of their wins are, it's great they get this win, but you want to see some more in regulation. And, yeah, so nice Central Division battle. And Dallas now moves on from this. They will be in Vancouver on Thursday. That is the next game that I will be witnessing live. And I'm sort of on the fence as to who I would maybe be I should be cheering for Vancouver in that game. But again, when I'm watching a game between two teams I cheer for, who I cheer for is based on who needs the win more and who's in a better position with the win more than anything else. So, yeah, we'll see. But Dallas right now, 8-8-2. It's better than it was when they were 1-7-1. All right, moving along. New Jersey. The Devils went into Vancouver today. There's already a review on the channel for this game. Me in the van with my lovely wife and us driving home. At the time that we recorded that, it's around 3:30, I guess, our time, about 4 o'clock. Neither of us had eaten or drank anything all day. So if I seem a little bit tired and out of sorts, it's because I hadn't ate or drank anything and I was on 5 hours sleep the night after being on 5 hours sleep before that. So a little tired overall. That being said, this was a good game for New Jersey. At 11:48, Simmons scores from Palmieri and Hall. That was the second straight power play for New Jersey. And you can't be doing that. I said that in the reviews last night. Even though New Jersey came into today with a power play that was at 12.3%, I think ranked 28th overall, you can't give teams back-to-back power plays like that. And when they've got the offensive weapons they have, it's just so dangerous. Bratt would then score from Severson and Zacha 22 seconds later. And when that went in, I was like, okay, so at least the tickets were well priced. For anybody who's wondering, we were down 4 rows up. We could see the players' bench from where we were. We were maybe, I think, 10 seats down from the players' bench. $70 a ticket. 70. And that's Canadian, so in American, that's about 60, 55, $60. So compare that with some rates that are out there, and this is why I tell people, man, you're getting ripped. Good seats, so even though the end result wasn't what I wanted, hey. Second period, Brock Besser scored for Miller and Hughes at 12 minutes and 40 seconds. I thought Besser, while he did score the goal, and he looked pretty good, the issue right now for me was Pettersson, over stick handling and whatnot. I mentioned that in the review for the game in the van, but I think it's worth mentioning here. They didn't score in the third, and they had their opportunities, not enough of them, to be honest. I didn't feel like they were generating enough shots at points of the game, and sometimes they were trying to be too pretty, and there were situations where I could hear the crowd chanting, shoot, shoot, on a power play, and they had nowhere to shoot the puck. It's like, you know what, the point, like being that close to the ice, you're like, yeah, there's nowhere to put it. They're all blocking it off. Very good penalty kill for the most part for New Jersey. I know they allowed the power play goal, but in that third period and just in general, they did very well. They being New Jersey. Simmons was your first star. Besser the second star. Blackwood third star. Blackwood looked like a star overall. He saved 30 out of 31. Markstrom saved 25 out of 27. Blake Coleman had 2 hits, and he stood out because he's kind of a yappy guy out there on the ice. Jack Hughes had 3 shots. Nico Hischier, there was nobody that was a minus. Hischier was a +1. Nobody was a minus on the New Jersey side because the only goal scored by Vancouver was on the power play, and that does not count for a +-. Pearson, 5 shots for Vancouver, and yet with those 5 shots, I'm trying to think of anything more than maybe one of those that I thought was really dangerous. Virtanen with 4 hits. He was hitting the glass pretty good, and Quinn Hughes was a -1 on today. The battle of the Hughes brothers, both of them won by Jack so far. So for Vancouver, this is a major blow. This is 4 straight games now where they're having trouble scoring. They lose the game in the end. They've lost 3 of them in regulation, and they're starting to lose pace with some teams in their division that you don't want to fall behind. While there's other teams that are still behind them, and it's not all doom and gloom. We'll get to how somebody else helped them today. There are some concerning signs that Vancouver may be a bit of a dip. And something else that I wanted to mention is, so they're doing like the 70s throwback, and they've got all these 70s posters. And in their 50th season, there's part of me that's saying it's great celebrating 50 years, but man, I wish there was a championship in these 50 years. It just, I don't know, it just feels like if we had a championship to look back on, but we don't. And there's a sadness to that for me. All right, that being said, because I've experienced most of the 50 years. Moving along. Vegas went in against Detroit, and yes, Detroit did Vancouver a favor, and Detroit also made a mockery of that board over there. Because what do I do with Detroit now? And more importantly, with Vegas, this is a very telling loss. I was giving them the benefit of the doubt coming out of that Washington game. I can't now. Marchessault scores from Smith and Theodore at 16:27, so no scoring, and the shot totals were very low in this game. Athanasiou scores from Green and Hronik at 19 minutes and 15 seconds. That's on the power play. So Detroit's power play has picked it up. Second period, Pacioretty scores from that's Raw there. It's Roy somewhere else. Raw and Reeves at 9:04. It's Matt Roy in LA, and it's Nick Raw in Vegas. So 9:04, Vegas makes it 2-1. It's 2-1 after 2. They should be able to bring this home. And this is where I've been saying, you know what, Vegas is playing a good defensive game, and they're playing sort of some really good tight checking hockey. But Bowie scores at 10:57, so this is where you expect a big Vegas push. And with 31 seconds left, no, it's Detroit. Mantha scores from Fabry and Larkin. So Fabry's now got 3 points in 2 games since going to Detroit. Yzerman looks like a genius. One thing that I've noticed already is when you watch a Detroit game, and obviously I didn't see this, we weren't home, but when I've been watching the Detroit games as the year's gone along, you can start to see Yzerman putting his stamp on the team, whether it's Ernie, whether it's bringing in Perlini, and now bringing in Fabry. He is putting something together here. Yes, they're probably going to end up far, far short of the playoffs, but you can kind of see he's playing a long game. Your 3 stars in this game are Mantha, Pacioretty, and Bowie. Reeves had 5 hits for Vegas. Shea Theodore had 4 shots. William Karlsson was a -1 in this game. Adam Ernie had 4 hits. Filppula, 3 shots. He also was added by Yzerman. And Hronik, a -2. He did get the assist on the power play, but the power play does not count towards plus-minus. Subban saved 16 out of 19. Bernier saved 17 out of 19. And for Vegas, this is a concerning turn. And we'll see how long this goes on, whether or not Vegas can turn it around, because they had problems at home. It looked like they were getting it together on the road, but now those problems have followed them on the road. It does seem to be a November thing with them. That being said, I now need to change boards. Now, it is true that all 3 teams that I cheer for lost today. It's one of those rare days. And yet, I felt good about Boston's effort in the end. When I came home, it was already 2-0. Konechny scored from Couturier and Lindblom at 13:50. Myers scored from Konechny and Couturier at 17:56. So 2-0 lead for the Philadelphia Flyers. And then in the second period, great road period. 11 shots in total, 5 of them for the Bruins. That's the way the Flyers needed to keep playing. And yet the third period, Boston showed a lot of heart. Marchand was denied on an early chance, but it still felt like the Bruins weren't generating enough shots until at 5:59, Danton Heinen scores from Coyle and Chara, and that seemed to help. That being said, right after the goal, the Flyers did make a push to try to restore the 2-goal lead. It failed. Halak was very good in that third period. The top line for the Bruins was pushing, but the Flyers were holding on. The problem was there was a lot of heavy pressure by the Bruins, and eventually that top line will break through, and it's Marchand from Grzelcyk and Pastrnak at 12:22. So, that ties it up. And from there on, the Flyers really needed to shift the momentum. Bjork almost got one right after that. Anders Bjork just missed. Scoring chances were 5-1 in favor of the Bruins in the third period at around the 15-minute mark. Pastrnak then got a penalty shot. The interesting thing was I was watching the Philadelphia feed, and they were just not having any of this. That should be a penalty shot. Oh, that shouldn't be a penalty. And you could feel like they really bought in that the Flyers are on this really good run, and the Bruins can't ruin this. Gosh darn it. At any rate, I did agree with the penalty shot. The penalty shots are awarded now in situations where they wouldn't have been, say, 10, 20 years ago. It's the way the NHL calls it. It's pretty consistent. So Pasta gets the penalty shot, and Hart saved it. He did. The Bruins then got a power play with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. They called a timeout while they were still on that power play with 1 minute and 36 seconds left. Could not score. So they go into overtime, and it's worth noting this is the 5th overtime in 6 games for the Flyers. So again, when I'm doing the power rankings board, how you win the game matters to me. And it's not just a matter of wins and losses, it's how you win it. They win it in the shootout. Farabee gets the one that's counting as the winner. But again, a shootout I look at and I say it's kind of a tie. They do get a bit of a bump because it's against the Bruins. The Bruins, they take a little bit of a hit, but not as much, because coming back in the third period the way they did, that was impressive, coming back from 2-0 down. So both teams played pretty well. Your 3 stars are Farabee, Konechny, and Marchand. Myers had 6 hits. Provorov had 3 shots. Claude Giroux was a -1 in this game. Wagner had 4 hits for Boston. Pastrnak had 4 shots. Corrali was a -2. So, worthy note, Wagner was a -2 as well, but he had 4 hits, so I already had him up there. Carter Hart saves 26 out of 28. Again, Carter Hart continues to improve his stats. And Halak, 27 out of 29. So, for people who are comparing Blackwood and Hart, good news. Both of them are playing really well right now. Both of them have improved from slow starts to the season, and both teams are benefiting from that. So, for Boston, it's another loss. It's a shootout loss, which makes it a little different in my eyes. But they still didn't get the victory when they needed it, and that's 3 straight. So again, a little bit of a hit for them, but still impressed that they came back as they did. Moving along, Toronto. So for fans who may not know, if you've been under a bridge for the last 24 hours, Marner goes down, and now word is he's going to be out a minimum of 4 weeks. I'll be doing a news of the day video tomorrow where we'll discuss that and what their options are. But it's weird because, Hyman was coming back and there's all this drama about, hey, what are they going to do? Are they going to get rid of Spezza? No, he was skating on the third line to start this game. I don't know if he finished on the third line, but he started there. Has to drive Mike Babcock nuts. Really does. Because you get the feeling he wants Spezza gone, and the cat came back the very next. Anyways, in the first period, it's Chicago. And I don't know how many fans in Toronto will blame either the defense or the goaltending, and how much the media is going to push out there and say Hutchinson is an issue or the defense is an issue. But this first period, first it's Kane from DeBrincat and Strome at 5:18. Then Doc scores from Shaw and DeHaan at 12 minutes. And then 10 seconds later, Kane from DeBrincat and Strome. DeBrincat and Strome and Kane, that's a pretty good combination apparently. Then Willie Nylander scores from Matthews at 16:29. Keep in mind his brother was on the other team, so we had 2 brother versus brother matchups today. Taves then scored on the power play from DeBrincat and Kane at 17:28, and Taves is picking it up. His offense has been better over the last 5-6 games than it was the rest of the season preceding that. So it's 4-1 Chicago after 1. Second period, the Hawks got a power play around the 13-minute mark. The Leafs had control early in the period, but back-to-back power plays for Chicago turned that against them. I think the shots were 7-1 Toronto to start with, and then they were 12-2 in favor of Chicago after. Something ridiculous like that, where it was just this huge momentum shift. Late power play for the Leafs, but Leonard looked really good. And honestly, despite the score, Leonard played very, very well. I don't know how else to put this. Toronto, when they scored, most of those goals were fantastic goals. Nylander scores in the third from Matthews. Same scoring play as they had in the first period. And so Matthews with a couple of helpers, Nylander with a couple of goals. And at 2:27, that makes it closer. The Leafs, I put up here, needed another quick one. They got a power play. The Hawks got a power play after killing that one. Kane then winds it up. Now, when I say winds it up, this is something too that with the kids hockey, there's one kid that if he winds it up through the neutral zone, I'm always telling the kids on my team, don't let him wind it up. Meaning he gets that head of steam, and once he gets that head of steam and he's going to the net, it's probably going in the net. And Kane had that going on with that play, but he missed wide. The Leafs got another power play. On that power play, 4 seconds into the power play. And this is where, like, when people talk about face-offs, yes, here a face-off is very, very key. When you get into the overall face-offs in the entire game or an entire season, it doesn't really tell a very accurate story. And again, it's one of those stats that I don't know where it's tracked, but goals within 5 seconds of a face-off. In this case, it was 4. Tavares from Matthews and Janssen, very key goal right there. Makes it a pretty darn close game. And then Leonard was hurt on the play. It looked like he took a shot that hit him right in the collarbone. Because that's what he's pointing at when the trainer went out there. That it hit him. And he doesn't have one of the neck protectors. So that's just on skin. The fact he stayed in the game, Robin Leonard is a very, very tough person. The Blackhawks, though, were allowing way too many chances in that third period. Way too many chances. It was a lot of puck control for the Leafs, pretty much complete in total. The puck sat in front of an empty Hawks net. Just sat there for like, I don't know, a second and a half, but it must have felt like an eternity for the Leafs. Chicago picks it up. Kajula got it to Taves, to Brendan Saad, and at 16:26 they score. So in a play where it looked like Toronto was going to tie it, the puck goes the other way and it's in the net, and it's Chicago that gets it. The Leafs got a late power play. They would score on that power play. Janssen from Tavares and Matthews at 19 minutes and 18 seconds. So for people keeping track at home, Austin Matthews got 4, count them, 4 helpers. Was not one of the 3 stars. Kane, Leonard, and Nylander were the 3 stars. And that's William Nylander, not Alex. Apologies to Alex, but that's William Nylander. The stats, Trevor Moore had 4 hits. Matthews had 10 shots. So a goal or 2 may have been on a rebound from a shot that Matthews had. It was Matthews, of course, it was a shot from him that caught the collarbone of Leonard, and then Tavares potted in the rebound in that play. The fact that he tried to stay in that play, just tough goaltender. Tavares was a -2 today. On the Chicago side, Zach Smith, 6 hits, so he's still not getting points, but he got a hit, or 2 or 6 today. Kane with 5 shots, and Duncan Keith a -1 on the day. Leonard saved 53 out of 57. Hutchinson saves 29 out of 34. Pretty good game for Leonard. He allows 4 goals, but he saves 53. So it's one of those nights where if you look at just goals against average, it's bad. And this is why I don't pay any attention to goals against average. I don't know if anybody's noticed that it's a stat I very rarely put on the board. It's a stat I don't put a whole lot of stock in. Because in a game like this, yeah, Leonard's goals against is terrible. He also saved 53 out of 57 shots. That's pretty impressive. So that's why I don't really track goals against. Goals against tell you usually the strength of the team a goalie plays for. Been plenty of goaltenders with really good goals against, not necessarily great goaltenders. And vice versa. Goaltenders with horrible goals against averages that are pretty darn good. Moving along. Oilers. This was the game I saw majority of. There were parts of the third that I was fine with. Here's the thing. So Edmonton went through this period of not being able to score a couple weeks ago. And it went on for 4 out of 5 games, wasn't it? That they were having trouble scoring. The scoring's back. Well, McDavid made a big return tonight. Nugent Hopkins scores at 1 minute and 28 seconds. And the Oilers coming into tonight were 8-1-1 when they score first. Now, that's just one of those stats they throw out there, but it shows how the Oilers have changed. The Oilers now play a defensive game that means that if they get the first goal, they're probably going to win, which is different than the Oilers from last year, the year before, or almost every year, really. 2017, they were pretty good, but 2016-17 season. But almost every year of the last decade outside of that, a 1-goal lead didn't mean very much. Raquel then scored from Silverberg and Henrique at 3:24. So I was thinking, when they put that graphic up, they may have jinxed him. But that wasn't a concern. McDavid took a penalty, but Raquel took one 25 seconds later. So, yeah, that kind of offsets what Raquel did, getting that goal. Kind of, sort of. Not really. McDavid would then score from Draisaitl and Kassian at 10:40. Zach Kassian right now playing the best hockey I've seen him play since there was a stretch he had with the Sedins with Vancouver. And he had one stretch in there, and I'm pretty sure he was playing really well, and he kept getting dropped off that line, and then he got hurt, and then he just never got it back. Right now, Kassian looks like he did then. And it's 2-1 Oilers after one. Now, all the Oilers' moms were there tonight. Now, I don't know if that made a difference. I will say this. At the Canucks game today, the cancer jerseys were brought out. And, well, there was a cancer jersey for the kid that was there for the Hockey Fights Cancer Night, and his family came out, all of them wearing Adidas jerseys. The Oilers, their moms, all wearing Adidas jerseys. The Washington Capitals giving the Nationals Fanatics jerseys. Looks kind of cheap. Up here in Canada, we give out Adidas. Second period, Kassian takes a penalty at 57 seconds. That's just the way it works with Kassian. He's going to take penalties. McDavid then got a break after the penalty kill and took a tripping call on the play. So the Ducks go right back to the power play. Did not score. So the Oilers, their penalty kill, pretty good. And then on the power play, Nugent Hopkins scores from Draisaitl and Clefbaum at 7:45. That made it 3-1. And before that really sinks in, Kassian scored a nice one from Patrick Russell and Ethan Bear at 10:23. It's 4-1 halfway through the game. The Ducks got a power play shortly after that. It was their fifth of the game already. Didn't matter. And at this point, I look at that and I go, yeah, this game's done. Now, we've had a lot of comeback victories. And we've had a lot of teams that have shown they could be great one moment and not very great the next. Florida comes to mind. The Oilers really haven't been like that. I said 3-goal lead. Dave Tippett's behind the bench. They'll bring it home. In the third period, notable right off the bat was how quiet the crowd was. Now, I sat with a quiet crowd today, too. So, quiet crowd's kind of a thing today. And that was a pretty quiet one. Now, it livened up when Jones got a nice goal assisted by Steele at 3 minutes and 11 seconds. And I put right on the board right away. Like, the Ducks need another right away. They need to capitalize on this. They need to forget it. McDavid scored a beautiful goal from Kassian and Draisaitl at 7 minutes and 14 seconds. That's a pretty good game for Kassian. That's 3 points today, a goal and 2 assists. Not bad. The Oilers seem very, very different this year. Had to put that on the board. This is a different team. Again, last year before, they allow a goal to start the third period, it would unravel quickly. And you'd have guys yelling at each other on the ice and a lot of finger pointing going on after the game about, oh, well, I don't know what happened out there. This year, no, it's not happening. The Ducks got a chance. Getzlaf missed wide. The Oilers got a power play. And the Ducks were definitely folding. And then McDavid gets a hat trick from Clefbaum and Draisaitl at 13 minutes and 25 seconds. Do you remember when Marge Simpson gave out her pretzels at a baseball game, and the baseball game turned, and everybody threw the pretzels at Whitey Ford and knocked him over, and it was a disaster? Today, at the Anaheim game, they gave out a bunch of camouflage hats for Remembrance Day, right, for Veterans Day. A lot of those hats hit the ice when McDavid scored the hat trick. So here are the Ducks giving out a bunch of hats. A lot of them ended up on the ice. And they were saying, like, how many of these hats are on the ice because Duck fans are celebrating McDavid's hat trick, and how many of these hats are on the ice because the Ducks are stinking up the joint, and people are letting the Ducks know they're not happy. This is a far cry from the Anaheim team that started the season 6-2. They are no resemblance to that team at all. And I put up after depth's overrated. If you're an Oilers fan, you could just go ahead and say it, and you know what? I'll agree with you. I'll get behind you. You have Kassian, you have McDavid, and you have Draisaitl driving everything. Yeah, you get a couple of goals from Nugent Hopkins. He is the fourth scorer on this team. Outside of that, you don't need anything. James Neal's cold. It doesn't matter. Neal has 2 goals now in the last 6 games, so he has cooled down from where he started the season. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean anything. These guys don't need players. They just need McDavid, Draisaitl, a couple goals from Nugent Hopkins are fine. McDavid, first star. Nugent Hopkins, second star. And how crazy is it that Leon Draisaitl, with 4 assists, is your third star? Because they won 6-2. Stats. Chris Russell had 3 hits. Nugent Hopkins had 7 shots. Clefbaum was a -1. Somehow in a 6-2 game, he was a negative. Holzer had 3 hits for the Anaheim Ducks. Goodbranson had 4 shots. He led the way for the Ducks there. He's actually been generating a lot of shots, which is odd. Holzer was also a -3. So he led the team in hits and in the negative department. Koskinen, 31 saves on 33 shots. He was very solid. Gibson, 25 saves on 31 shots. I don't know, out of the 6, was there one that he could have saved? I'm not going to say anything bad about Gibson, because this, honestly, this was a statement game for the Oilers. So for the rest of the NHL, listen up. They're going to San Jose next. I wouldn't bet against them winning in San Jose. The Oilers are legit. They are absolutely legit. And this was an impressive display today of just how well they're playing, and also a display of just how bad things have got for Anaheim after such a promising start. And now they're not in a playoff spot. Pretty sure they're not in a playoff spot anymore. That's all gone. And they don't look anywhere near turning it around. So we'll see if that continues. Let me know what you guys thought about today's action in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.